guys? Today I want to talk about a few things. I want to talk about why it is that we talk about the things that we talk about. And also I want to talk about why we prep. So let's get into it. Okay, so let's start off talking about why preppers talk about some of the things we talk about. For instance, gold and silver. Why do we talk about gold and silver? Well, especially here lately, the prices have been going up and up and up for both. And why is that important? Well, it's important because gold and silver actually never lose any or gain any buying power. In other words, that you can purchase the same amount of goods and services with an ounce of gold or silver now as you could have 20 years ago, 50 years ago, whatever. What changes is the value of the currency that you're using to purchase that ounce of gold and silver. In other words, our own greenbacks ain't worth as much as they used to be. Why is this important to know? Well, as the price of gold and silver goes up and up and up, the value of your money goes down. So the cost of goods and services, food, gasoline, whatever it is going to continue to go up because of inflation, and gold and silver is a hedge against inflation. So this is important to know because stocking up on things now, while they're not as expensive as they're going to get, is a good idea. In other words, look for sales at the store. You find cans of green beans or cans of whatever for $1, buy a few extra ones. Put them in your preps, So it's important to know when and how much your prices are going to go up so that you can keep doing the things that you're doing. Of course, that's not the only thing we talk about. We talk about, what's going on in Venezuela and Iran and China and Taiwan, Russia, Ukraine, so on and so forth. The list just goes on and on right now. And why is this important? Why is geopolitics and what's going on 8,000 miles away important? Well, it's important to know what may be coming. If any of these conflicts erupt into a World War III type scenario, which of course we hope it never does, but if it does, how is that going to affect you and me? Well, while I don't think anybody would ever invade our country as far as boots on the ground, and I really don't think anybody would ever use a nuclear weapon against us, they very well may use an EMP or some kind of cyber attack that knocks out our grid, more so out of spite than anything else. So that's something you need to be prepared for. If you live up here in the Northeast, do you have alternative heating sources that don't take electricity? Or, do you have enough food and water supplied so when the trucks stop running, because if the grid goes down, the trucks are going to stop running, the supplies are going to stop coming to the grocery store, how long can you go without resupplying? And if you want to know what happens when the trucks stop, I actually did a video on it. You guys can go back and check it out. Pretty good video. So, what else do we talk about? Well, we talk about the uproar in Minnesota and many other big cities. And why is that important to know? Well, if you live in one of those areas, it's important to know if that's happening in your neighborhood or in your area. Maybe it's happening in the area where you work. And what are you going to do if you're in one of those areas? Do you have a plan? Because that's the most important thing. Are you going to bug in? Are you going to shelter in your house? Or are you going to bug out? Say, you know what? Things are getting crazy. Maybe we need to go to location B for a couple of weeks until things calm down around here. Do you have routes mapped out to get from where you're at, from work to your bug out location, from home to your bug out location? Do you have a plan for if you or your spouse are at home and the other is at work? Do you have a meeting place? Do you have some kind of route that you take that the other one would know that you've made it okay? You need to have a plan for things like that. Now, if you're in a small town like me, the odds of something like that happening are pretty slim. but not impossible. So have a plan, be ready, and decide what you're going to do. Are you staying home? Are you bugging out? And that's not the only thing we talk about. We talk about some of the news, and some of it is purely for entertainment. There's some goofy stuff going on out there, and sometimes a little chuckle doesn't hurt any because, your mental health is just as important as anything else, if not even more important. Now let's get into some of the reason of why we prep. So why do we do all this? Well, honestly, hopefully just for a hobby. I think we're all deep down hope that nothing bad ever really happens, and this is just a way to enjoy ourselves, meet new people. Hey, I've made some great friends doing this, so if that's all that ever comes of it, then I'm perfectly fine with that. Also, well, pass it on to the younger generation. I try to teach my grandkids as much as I can because maybe nothing happens in my lifetime. Maybe when something crazy happens, I'm gone, but they'll still be here. And maybe when it does happen, they'll say, man, I'm so glad Grandpa taught me how to do some of this stuff. So pass on what you learned. Also, of course, the most important reason we do this is to protect our family and our loved ones. They're the number one priority. And of course, we want to keep them fed and warm and as happy as possible and everything else that goes along with our prepping journey. And one final reason why we prep that I think a lot of people don't think of, or at least don't think about, is if something major ever does happen, and I mean something big, which hopefully never does happen. Hopefully we never have to see any of this. But if it does, one of our main jobs is to survive so that when the smoke clears and the dust settles, that we're here to help rebuild. The knowledge and the skills that you learn today are going to help rebuild after the collapse tomorrow. Now, like I said, hopefully there never is a collapse, but if there is, it's going to be kind of our job to right the ship after everything's said and done with. At least we're going to play a major role in it. So, guys, let me know what you thought of this video, and let me know what you think of, some of the things we're doing, like the Doom Report and that. I've got a little blowback from that, but, let me know what you think. And of course, keep prepping, keep your head on a swivel, and don't wait for SHTF because it's not going to wait for you. Also, learn as many skills as you possibly can. That's what's going to save you in the long run. Guys, I hope everybody has a wonderful Tuesday. We will see you all on the next one. Have a good day, all.